On first glance, there are no real words that jump off the page. We felt this was done on purpose to leave us in the dark, so we ran with the idea of leaving the player in the dark. This was originally a literal translation in which we would use a fog of war effect to uncover the level. What it ended up being was a metaphor for the deliberate omission of player story and objective. A secondary use of the theme is the grid-based nature and puzzle aspect of the game. We set our focus on the implementation of a small set of game mechanics that could be used to create challenging levels. Dialing down the scope allowed us to focus our time spent on polishing our game mechanics and minimising bugs. As a two-man team, we went into the Game Jam with a strict plan to manage our time and scope. We wanted a solid idea of what we were building within 2 to 3 hours of the theme dropping. By midnight on the first night, we had some of the core mechanics built. By midnight on day 2, we had most of the game mechanics and art assets integrated. This left us with a few hours on the final day to create the final levels and tidy up bugs and user experience. By 4 PM submission day, we froze all code and art assets and began building the submission. This allowed enough time to get it hosted and tested, as well as fill out the AIE submission forms and copy it over. The first 3 levels are tutorials to introduce the mechanics of the game to the player. I really like the dialogue here. It's a bit dark, but it shows you something about the character's personality. It also has a literal meaning in that if you push the crate in the corner, you are stuck and need to suicide to reset the level. Originally, the dialogue here said something like, "Those spikes are awfully sharp, but smells like a moist rat" is much funnier and less insulting to the player's intelligence. This is the first of the real game levels that combines the elements that have been shown from the tutorials. This level ramps up the difficulty. Placing the crate and the button amongst the moving spikes forces the player to keep on their toes once they make the decision to proceed into the spiked area. This was the first full level we built. It's still one of my favourites as it looks nice and clean, and the spikes that offset next to each other force the player to time their run. We also introduced the concept of multiple buttons and giving the player options. This is the third level Javier made, and the best one in the game. There are multiple paths to take and many ways to get the crate stuck or die from spikes. This one is my personal favourite. The dialogue could imply that the player is having some sort of hallucination, or it could be a metaphor for the hangover battle we fight after a big night. This was the last level built. It was just complete in time for submission. It's the only level that introduces the idea that rather than using switches to let the player get where he's going, the switches must be used to release the spikes from the final corridor. Thank you for listening to our presentation on Lit Dark. Poison Frog Games are Javier Munoz and Adam Holbert.